Hello, and welcome to the Action Shooting Show. Oh, wait. Oh, all right. Hello, welcome to the Action Shooting Show. It kind of had a false start there. We got a full house tonight. We have everybody here. So we got Mark, we got Mike, we got Tiger, we have myself, Ryan. So we've been talking about doing this episode for a while, and we finally got everyone together. We're gonna have some show and tell stuff, but we're gonna try to do. And I've actually had some people private message me, and I think Mike gets these messages, but run and gun gear. What gear do you need to buy to go do a run and gun? So we're kind of going to cover, and we're not going to cover guns and that sort of thing because honestly, if you have a center fire, semi-automatic pistol and rifle, it's probably fine for the game. And we can always cover that another date, but I think that's less of an issue for people than all the kind of ancillary gear. So we're going to get into this, and it's going to be kind of broad because there's a lot of divisions. And I think the first thing to say, and we say this about pretty much every sport, is don't go spend a bunch of money before you run your first match or you do something. Short of clothes and shoes and things that may keep you comfortable, there's no need to buy a bunch of gear before you get out and start shooting this sport, because like a lot of things, you buy something and it's wrong because you don't really know what you want. So anyone else have anything to add into that kind of preamble before we go on?
No, go for it.
All right. All right. So the other thing I guess I should do here is, if you are military, police, something along those lines, soldier of fortune, running your duty gear might make sense. So we'll make some recommendations of what we think is best for the sport of run and gun, or the event of run and gun, however you view it. But if you've got shit hits the fan gear, if you've got your duty gear, whatever, run that, if that's what you want to do. So you can ignore this other stuff, but this is for the people who don't use guns in this gear for a living. So think starting off is clothing. I know personally I have run into not being dressed appropriately for a match, and having issues with it. So maybe that's a good place to start. Does anyone want to start us off there?
Yeah, I can start. Mostly just your basic clothing for the weather. I've heard real runners, like people that do marathons and 5Ks and stuff, say that plan for what you'd wear 20 degrees warmer than it is. So if it's 50 degrees when you start running, dress like it's going to be 70. I don't know if that's good advice or not, but it's always seemed to be close, unless it's raining and you're wet. That 20-degree rule doesn't work. But I've almost always ran in long pants, trail running shoes, wool socks, and then depending on how cold it is, from a t-shirt all the way up to long sleeves, like a sweatshirt type outfit. And then I think I had a stocking cap on one year. I don't remember what that one was, but it was cold, so I had a stocking cap on. But usually a ball cap, for a couple reasons. One, to keep sun out of your eyes a little bit, to catch a sweat so it's not dripping in your eyes. And it also protects you a little bit. People don't realize this, but a hat with a bill kind of protects the top of your glasses. And so it doesn't hurt to wear a hat when you're shooting. And then usually I bring a towel, like some sort of little rag or something that I wear on my belt so I can dry my hands or wipe my glasses and stuff like that. You can wipe your glasses and your hands on your shirt too, but something hanging on my belt. But for as far as clothes, that's pretty much it. Pretty standard, what you'd wear to a range or what you'd wear to USPSA, stuff like that. So nothing too special for me.
What about you, Mike? You got anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So I'm going to probably address things from the bottom up and go with your footwear is going to be a major part of your dress and how you want to set yourself up. And well, I don't know if Ryan wants to get into this more in depth later, but I always try to set myself up with a solid trail shoe.
Yeah, I did have a section actually right after clothes. I was going to hit footwear and socks because that's probably its own pretty good section.
Okay, well,
but,
I'll just
yeah.
skip that then and move up.
Okay.
Generally, I'm running in like a lightweight nylon pant, like you get at Cabela's or something for camping, hiking. I find that even in some of the cooler weather events, that generally the movement that I have, I'm staying warm enough in those, and they dry really quick. Now that I've done events where I'm actually swimming and or wading in fairly deep water, having a lightweight pant that will dry quickly and still allow free movement even when wet's pretty important. And then I generally, in warmer temps, like to use some sort of like tech wear, Under Armour-ish t-shirt and boxers or something like that, just to stay comfortable, cool, and then I'll generally top myself off with a baseball cap as well. And I'll normally bring gloves or something like that on the run, even if I don't always wear them. There's always some obstacles or something where it's kind of nice to have like a thin shooter's glove, something from like SKD or Oakley or 511 or something.
Oh yeah, that reminded me of two things, Ryan. One, the pants, having cargo pants is generally nice, or pants with extra pockets or deep pockets is handy. And then gloves, if you bring them, try to remember to wear them. I know I've brought gloves with, and then they either were hanging on my pack or in my pack, and I forgot about them the whole race. So it's easy to forget about things like that. But yeah, I would add cargo pants or pants with good pockets, I would say.
Yeah, for just as a visual, these are one of the gloves Mike was kind of recommending, these pig gloves. I think SKD sells them, a couple other people sell them, but they're very thin. They don't take up much room. You can shoot them if you need to, but yeah, I use these in matches, and I think Haley Strategic makes this little, I think it's called a thing hook or whatever, that can Velcro into your belt, and I just let those hang off. So Tiger, you got anything to add into that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm basically the same as you guys. I generally I wear boots instead of the trail running shoes, which we'll talk about that when we get into the footwear stuff, because I have reasons for that too. Yeah, lightweight stuff. I actually have discovered that my favorite pants for running gun are Wrangler Ripstop cargo pants. They're $19 at Walmart, so if I destroy them over the course of a running gun, I'm out $20. I chalk that up into the cost of the match almost. But they flex pretty well. They're pretty lightweight. They dry real fast. Like Mark said, they have a couple extra pockets. They're comfortable. They have just enough stretch to where they're not cutting into me if I'm in a weird position or, anything like that. Yeah, usually I wear some form of match T-shirt that I got at, the same match 2 years before at this point. And then ball cap. If it's real sunny outside, I'll put sunglasses on, my prescription ones that act as safety glasses. If not, and then Heartbreak is probably the one you were wearing the stocking cap at, Mark, because it gets freezing cold and sometimes rains and sometimes snows and sometimes you're on ice and all the fun stuff. And so you pack a Gore-Tex or a thin windbreaker or something at least to keep you from going into hypothermia in between stages while you're on wait time or whatever.
All right, yeah, and that's the one thing I'm pretty similar to the rest of these guys as far as clothing. I will add to that if you're running a match during the winter, or when it's colder, definitely consider good base layers. The mistake, and I've mentioned this in another episode, the mistake I made at Heartbreak, and it's one that I knew better, but It kind of came down to when it was time to pack. It's all I could find. All my base layers were cotton. They all got soaking wet. It really wasn't supposed to rain, but it did anyways. And they just got soaked, and it just sucked all the heat out of me. So good base, like non-cotton base layers are important if it's going to be cold. And even when it's hot, you know, if you got a real thin non-cotton, you know, real lightweight, breathable shirt to protect your skin from the sun, some of these matches, you know, if you're going down in like Texas and some of these places where there's a lot of sun, you know, directly bearing down, you don't want to get a sunburn halfway through the match or something like that. So I'd recommend that. And I think Mike's a little different. More often than not, though, I do wear long pants like they're talking about, because a lot of these you're trudging through CRP land and like overgrown stuff and weeds and sticker bushes. And every match director likes to take you through a blackberry bramble patch. So it's nice to have a little something to keep that from scratching. So anything else anyone wants to add before we jump on to footwear?
The one thing I want to add that Tiger brought up, and we didn't really cover it, but in rain, one of the things that I know we've debated as a group or discussed is what kind of gear you want to wear for rain. Do you want to do a full rain suit? Do you want to do Gore-Tex? Do you want to do like cheap frog togs? I've seen people at Run and Guns wearing garbage bags with holes cut for their arms and legs. And I don't know if any of us have the perfect solution or are really happy with any solution. I think we're still all kind of figuring this out, because like Tiger said, you can destroy clothing and gear on a run and gun. And so if you do frog togs that are $20 for a set and you know it's going to be shred by the time you get done, or you wear your Cabela's Gore-Tex, you know, like, I don't know what the best solution is. I think I've been wet more than smart on any of these. I know I've bought frog togs, but I don't know if I actually wore them by the time I was done with the race. You know, I don't know if we have a good solution for that, but that's something to consider.
Well, yeah, and I if it's not cold, I don't know, just get wet and deal with it. I will say, and I think this is a good transition, if there's water, cotton is not your friend, and Gore-Tex is probably also not your friend. So let's go into footwear here. I think most of us here, I'm a huge proponent of wool or wool blend socks. They don't wick water. They keep your feet warm. They kind of give you some padding. So there's a lot of benefits to that. Shoes wise, I just use like a trail running shoe, you know, low cut trail running shoe. I will say the caveat to that is that I do a lot of trail running leading up to these events and just kind of in general, and just my lifestyle. I have pretty strong ankles because of it. And I've kind of, you know, worked my ankles to where they don't roll easily. So if you don't have good ankles or you don't train like that, you may want to be careful. I know we had a friend, I think he rolled his ankle at a match earlier this year and had to stop halfway through. So that's a strong. What's that?
Is there anyone else in this chat that's rolled ankles before? I don't know.
Yeah.
Tiger has something to add about this.
Yeah, we'll get to that once. Yeah. So keep in mind, if you should be training for these, whatever you train in is what I would wear to the match. But that's kind of what I do. As far as Gore-Tex, and I think Mike may speak to this as well. Gore-Tex boots and Gore-Tex shoes are not really a good idea. If you are not getting into water, they may be fine. The problem is that as soon as you step into water or you get your foot submerged in water, all the water goes in. Gore-Tex does a great job of keeping water from coming in, which also keeps water from going out. And then you've kind of got like bathtubs you're walking around in. So let's go on to Tiger then, and he can share why he does what he does.
Yeah, so we'll start from the inside and then we'll get to the outside. I actually wear, I've gotten to the point where I wear athletic socks And then I'll wear a dress sock over my athletic sock to provide a little bit of almost lubrosity within the boot, and then a really high-end athletic sock provides the cushioning, keeps my feet dry, keeps them warm, all that stuff. And then also, since I do wear boots, and the reason I wear boots, the reason Mark was laughing at me is because a couple years ago at Legion, I was not wearing boots, rolled my ankle, which led to me blowing out my knee, dislocating it, tearing some tendons, all kinds of fun stuff, where I then self-medicated significantly for a weekend while I RO'd. But I wear boots because because my ankles aren't as strong and my knee isn't as strong. So I prefer the stability of a boot. I wear the same boots I wore when I was in the Marine Corps. At this point, I'm in Danner's rat boots. I've worn them every day for the last, up until I started teaching, I wore them every day for like 6 years on construction sites. I'm used to them. They're comfortable. Now that I'm teaching some, I'm actually trying to work myself back into boots because my feet have softened being in dress shoes all the time. That's what Ryan was talking about. Whatever you train in is what you should wear. Like if you train in nothing but tennis shoes on blacktop, do not suddenly put on a 3-pound set of boots to go hike in the woods. You're not going to have a good time. It's going to be hard on your joints, hard on your feet, hard on all that. And but yeah, footwear is super important. But on the flip side of that, John Drossert, he drove to Heartbreak a couple years ago, had forgotten his shoes, went to Walmart, bought a $15 pair of, for lack of a better term, plastic shoes because they were Gore-Tex from Walmart. Wore them for that race, wore them for like 8 races because if he laced them up tight enough, even if he stepped in a puddle of water, they kept water out of his feet. So, but that's the exception, not the rules. So definitely wear what you train in. Pick up some good footwear. If you go on the discussion groups, there's all kinds of discussions about what good brands are. Some footwear companies have sponsored different events. Support those guys too. But whatever works for you is what you should do. Like I said, I like boots because of the stability. I'm willing to put up with a little extra weight. I'm not running also. I'm hiking. That's a big difference. If I was actively running, like say Todd Bannis or Logan Dudley or Mike Ford or something like that, I probably would wear a trail running shoe because running in boots is a bad idea. It just is. That much weight on your feet when you're moving that fast is not good. But yeah, your feet are your foundation, so you should take care of them as much as you can.
So before Mike goes, I just want to throw out there, and this is probably too big a topic for us to debate now, but I'm going to say that boots don't really protect your ankles that much. I think this is a hotly debated topic. You can let us know what you think in the comments, but first of all, you were carrying a ton of weight. You were going to blow out that ankle and knee either way. I don't think any boots in the world would have protected you, but I think this is still a pretty hotly debated topic of how much protection boots actually give your ankles. So we'll see what Mike says, but if you agree or disagree, let us know in the comments. Mike might be putting the kid to bed.
Okay. If Mike's not there, he.
No, I'm here. I was having to turn down the TV in the other room. So, okay. Fire up the good old camera here. And spin it around.
Yeah, well, he's. What?
So, brief
Okay.
show and tell is these are some of the boots that I've kind of grown to really like. I started out doing like Columbia hiking boots, and then I tried like some Rocky combat boots, and then I switched over to the Salmon Speed Cross, and we were using these for 3-gun, and it's a pretty nice comfy trail shoe with the laceless system. It uses it's not like a bungee cord, it's a pretty stiff cord with a slider. And
It's a Kevlar.
Yeah. So the nice thing with this type shoe is it does not hold water. So you pair this with a wool sock, and you can go through like a creek or a pond, and by the end of the match, your shoe will actually start being dry on the outside. So, and your feet will be relatively comfortable. The wool socks will keep you from getting blisters and rub marks. One of the great advantages of a shoe like this is that nice open lug with almost cleats. It's softer than like a cleat for soccer or baseball or something like that. So you get better traction on rocks and debris like that. Um, but there's also a lot of flex because this is also a trail shoe. So kind of the other option that Nick Quick and John Stone or some of the other guys that do a lot of the running guns kind of pointed out, and so I decided to give it a try, was the Speed Assaults. And if you'll look, this is very, very similar to the Speed Cross shoes, and it's a low-top hiking boot. This section up here is relatively soft, but it just provides a little bit more cling, keeps debris out. And the real difference between the shoes is the rubber compound on the bottom of the Speed Assaults is a little bit stiffer, so it's held up really well to rucking and also doing winter activities as well. And then the amount of foam in the bottom and the type of foam is a little bit different. So this is got a slightly higher heel, so it's a little bit thicker, but it's a soft foam. And then this seems to be a little bit stiffer, but it offers better support when running with weight, like a ruck or something like that. So far, the Speed Assaults have been my favorite, to the point where I'm even doing a lot of my trail running without weight in them. They just fit my foot real well. Just a heads up to the guys that run them, they do run narrow. So even though I got the same size as what I would want to wear in my Speed Assaults, Speed Cross, the Speed Assaults feel narrower, but the material does stretch out and have a little bit of give once you get in it and wear it and do some rucking or running in it. But these are my favorite. It's the same as the Speed Assaults and the Speed Crosses. They dry quick. Paired with a wool sock, your feet will be comfortable even into freezing temperatures, like events like Heartbreak. Yeah, that's my little show and tell moment.
Yeah, and that's I run the Speed Cross. The one thing I will say, I'll add to what Mike's talking about, and I don't have the Speed Assaults. The Speed Cross get really good traction on most everything, wet wood or like wet solid surfaces, just because they've got those lugs and there's a little less surface area. They can be a little bit more slick. I'm guessing if it's a little harder compound, the Speed Assaults may even be worse about that. So I don't think it's like a break it for those, but just, if you're running around in them and you first get them, kind of be cautious if you got wet wood's slippery anyways, but when you get less traction on there. Before we go on from that, I'll mention two more quick things that are kind of related to this. Guess to mention another podcast that relates to this. I recently listened to podcast is Max Ordnance, and they did an episode on the Sniper Action Challenge. And so I found that because that's a match I'd love to do in the future. But the two guys that did it together have a section on what their feet prep. And they didn't go into it a ton, and they mentioned a book I still have to kind of track down, but they actually talked about, like, besides for different, like, multiple layers of socks, like Tiger was talking about, they actually tape their feet a certain way. So they did some tape. And if you don't know, the Sniper Action Challenge is like a multi-day, all-at-once match. So I think in this case, they were up for it's like a 48-hour match. So you're going nonstop, rucking around, hitting these different checkpoints and whatnot. So foot prep is, an all-weather, rain. So foot prep's really important. So they got kind of a section on that I thought was really interesting. I'm going to kind of look into some of that for myself, because even if I get much over 3 or 4 miles running, I start getting sores on one of my toes. So I've tried a couple different shoes and different lacing, and I'm still haven't found the answer to that, short of just getting blisters. But yeah, so that's something I'm going to give a try. And one more thing I've not tried yet, but it was recommended to me and Mike from our friend Sean Murphy. He has toe wool socks. So they're like you see the toe shoes. I guess they're a liner sock that each toe is individually in there. I actually have a set coming tomorrow, I think. He really likes those. They're real thin. So you wear that like under your regular sock, and it's supposed to help keep from getting blisters. I think he said he puts his toes like halfway in, even like, so they're not completely like gloves. I guess that's the best way, like feet gloves. So I'm giving that a try. I think it, maybe someone else other people may be interested in it, but protecting your feet when you're going to be on it for 3 miles, 4 miles, 5, 8 miles, whatever it is pretty important. So anything else before we move on?
Yeah. Actually, I forgot to mention it. I did mention, people that sponsors. Ryan, I recommended a shoe brand to you for everyday wear earlier in the year, and it's what I wear every day. Lalo Tactical. I found them because they sponsored matches. They're now what I wear at school because they're more. I can get away with them because they're black, so they look dressy, quote unquote. But they do trail running shoes, trail running boots. They do a lot of that stuff too. And they're some of the most comfortable shoes and lightest shoes I've ever worn in my life. I'm going to start with that whenever I get back into rucking quite a bit and see how I like the lightness on my feet versus the boots that I'm wearing. Because as Mark said, there's some debate on how much support you get from boots and things like that. So I'm going to try and maybe not have so much weight on my feet with this brand of shoe that I've found that I like wearing every day, and also see how they hold up. The pair I'm wearing now has held up for like a year and a half at this point, which is longer than most shoes hold up for me. So
yeah, I had luck with the pair that I bought. I'm having luck with the pair I bought. I haven't been wearing them much lately, but they're more of a cross training shoe, so they're not really good they're a little thin for trail running.
Right.
So I pulled out a couple things to do a little more show and tell before we move on past the close. So these are like the zip off lightweight pants I was talking about that you see for hunting or camping and hiking and stuff. You got cargo pant pouches with Velcro or zipper openings, and then you'll have your normal pockets. And then the material is really, really lightweight. So it'll dry super fast. It doesn't hold any moisture. And then you'll see it's kind of faded, but there's some Sharpie on there. So if you get a light colored one, you can take notes with Sharpies on the middle of the course. So if you're trying to remember a Legion, a code, or a color combination or something, if you get a lightweight one or one that a black Sharpie will stand out on, you can hit it with a Sharpie and you'll be able to read it for the length of the course. Generally, it washes out in 1 or 2 washings and you're good for your next race. So kind of a little pro hack or whatever. And then the next thing is these Cabela's Instinct. It's a wool sock. It's a really lightweight blend, and so they're probably not quite as nice as like a Smart Wool brand or something. But these are like $14. You can go and pick up enough that you can have 2 or 3 pairs in an event. So if you get wet feet and you want to swap out, you could even do that, or just have a bunch of train in. They make a summer weight and a winter weight with different heights. And then what I mentioned earlier, in the summer I'll wear like a lightweight tech shirt like Under Armour or something. In the winter I'll wear like another like a winter tech shirt like Cold Gear from Under Armour, and then I'll pair it with a quarter zip combat shirt. And the nice thing is you get a nice soft front and back on your torso, so your gear doesn't rub or dig into you. You're not getting any uncomfortable spots. And then across the shoulders and the arms, you're getting a stiffer material for the crawls or Rosa Flora brambles. And the Velcro cuffs, you can always bring them up around your elbows and cuff them tight. And you can also put a Sharpie or different stuff in the pockets. So that's kind of my winter top is even in freezing cold temperatures, by the time I throw a ruck on in my weight class and then like a Cold Gear shirt under this, temperature-wise, I'm fine. So, yep, just last bit of show and tell.
Yeah, my pants still have like Checkpoint Jordan or something written on them from Legion. hasn't made it out in the first wash.
Brian, the
All
last
right,
thing I was going to add was about taping your feet. I just want to say there's like an art and a science to taping your feet. So don't hear this and say, oh, the guys that do run and gun tape their feet and then buy a roll of athletic tape and wrap your ankles and feet. And it's not advisable by anybody. So do some research on that. Talk to either an athletic trainer, physical therapist, somebody that actually knows how to tape feet, because you can cut off circulation. You can make things worse for yourself. It's not just wrap your feet in tape. So I would say look into that more, would be my advice.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I don't wrap my feet. I just know they were talking about, they were experimenting in their training with wrapping different ways and with different layers of socks to prevent it. So yeah, definitely do some research on that before you do it. So anything else before we move on? I think we probably hammered that topic pretty good. So, I mean, it's so much of this comes down to personal preference, dressing for the weather, the match. And I mean, the important thing here is that you should be, I mean, I know people hate the idea of training and run, who does that? But really you need to be, if you want to do these and enjoy them, it really helps to, even if you're not training as in running, like put some gear on and go out. You don't have to run in full kit or hike in full kit, but like if you're going to go do this, maybe put a backpack on with the however much weight your gun and ammo is going to weigh, and put the shoes on you plan to wear, and like go hit the trails and go off road. Because if all you do is train in your suburban Plaid on sidewalks, as soon as you get off road and you start hitting all these weird rocks and angles, and that's really how part of how you hurt your feet and ankles and stuff is you just haven't built up those muscles. So moving on to the next one, I've got safety gears, eyes and ears. There's not I think a ton to say about this. I'll let all the guys kind of put their two things in. I typically have some custom molded in-ears, like non-active in-ears that I wear, and I run the little cable through my hat. So if I'm hiking and I don't need ears on, I just let them dangle. So that's one method. My eye protection usually just stays on the whole time. I've got a pair of like Wiley X. They're cheap safety glasses, but I've learned somewhat I've learned from other people's hard way. I always have extra set of little foamies or two in my pocket just in case something happens to mine. And then I've started bringing an extra set of safety glasses, usually still in the plastic. Not just if you lose it, and I've seen people that somehow knock it off and they don't notice and they've got to run back up the course to find it. But at Heartbreak earlier in the year, the obstacle course, I got so covered in mud. I had lens wipes, but when like all of your hands are covered, your whole body, like everything has mud on it, there's like you can't wipe, trying to get lens wipes, and it was a mess. So I actually had to go to my secondary glasses and then kind of just be careful with those so that I didn't get mud smeared all over those. So I would say the little bit of weight, it's worth taking an extra pair of eyes and ears. Tiger, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I wear prescription glasses, so that generally covers eye protection. For the most part, I've got a set of safety glasses that I wear that are prescription. I've got a set of sunglasses, all that. I actually I didn't bring them in for my truck. Last year, Black Friday, I caught a good deal on a set of Walker in-ear electronics, and I've been loving those this year. I haven't shot a match this year, so I haven't used them in a match yet. Before that, I would literally scrounge around in my truck and find whatever pair of foamies from the last job site that I had, or keep 2 or 3 extra packs in my bag or whatever, and throw those in, and then if I lost all those, I'd pick up a couple pieces of brass off the ground or whatever I could find, to shove in my ears. Wear your
Marine
eyes,
gun, Marine.
Yeah, right. But yeah, like I said, those Walker in-ear ones, they're really nice. I've shot a lot with them this year here at the house and wore them, doing work with chainsaws and tractors and stuff, and I've really enjoyed those. They Bluetooth, but they're $300. They're expensive. And you absolutely 100% do not need that. A 37-cent set of foamies is amongst the best ear protection I've ever worn. So that's all I've got on that.
All right, Mark, you want to chime in with your little what you got?
Yep, I run in-ear as well, but I just do the not quite the cheap foamies, but I like the rubber ones better. I'll add on to what Ryan said that I don't know if I've seen anyone do it on Run and Gun because you don't really watch people on Run and Gun, but when people do their earplugs to their hat, I've seen people knock their hat off and it yanks out your ears, especially when you're running a sling. So people taking guns on and off with slings, when you knock off your hat, it yanks out your ears. If you continue to shoot, you're going to have a bad time. If you take the time to put your hat and your earplugs back in, you're going to waste a ton of time. I personally, I didn't have them attached to my hat, but I had the string between the ears and my sling pulled the one ear out just a little bit. And that was enough for my ear to ring the rest of that weekend because I didn't stop shooting. I wouldn't advise that. And then I just run prescription shooting glasses as well. So those aren't a big deal. But like Ryan said, bringing wipes with is really nice. I've handed out wipes to other people waiting on the wait time because they can't see anything. It's not just the mud that you run into on the course, but just your own sweat will get on your glasses and you can't see anything. So that's really handy. Being able to see makes it easier to shoot. Another place that you can use those wipes is on your scope or red dot or whatever it is that you're using. Keep that clean. So kind of dual purpose there. And then like Ryan said, have extra in your pocket in case you do knock them off or lose them or whatever. But yep, that's where I'm at in earplugs.
So I'll just add before I have Mike hop in here, because this is something I've recently started doing somewhat because of what Mark's talking about. These are my little custom in-ears. I actually have like a little alligator clip like you get from a name tag or whatever. And I've started clipping this on the collar of my shirt so that it's there. They're always kind of hanging even, but it's a little less chance of getting caught up like Mark's talking about, like on a sling or having your hat fall off. So I don't know, Mike, what do you do?
So I'm trying to get my camera to focus. Sorry, guys, it's not working out real well. 3M makes these nice little push-ins that it's almost like a mushroom, where the end is a traditional foam like you'd put in your ear, and then it's got like a rubber stem on it, and you can pull these off the end. And the nice thing with these is they're really easy to push in and out, and then that lets you adjust how far in they are and what you can hear. And then you can get these little pre-moistened lens cloth tissues. It's got the alcohol on it. And the nice thing with these is if you got a bunch of mud or something that's going to scratch, just take a big swig out of your Camelback, blast off your scope lens or whatever it is, get the big stuff off, and then this works real well to get that fine last bit. It's really nice for getting like sweat and stuff off. And these are both cheap little things that I'll normally go through maybe two of the lens cloths and a match, and maybe one or two packs of these ears. And I've probably handed out a dozen of these ears to people on the course or after a race when they're like, I can't believe I lost my ear pro. And now I kind of recommend these. But it's a 3M product, a 3M push-in.
And if you're opening, yeah, I keep those little pre-moistened wipes. I will say if you have these little things like those wipes and different stuff, put them in your damn pouch or something. Because I run more than one run and gun where I see trash that was obviously left by run and gun people, and we can't do that at these ranges that are letting us do this. I mean, besides the environmental thing, yeah, don't be a litter bug. So anything else before we kind of go on to maybe more fun stuff that people like to talk about?
No, I'm just going to echo you. I run with a quart Ziploc bag in my pocket, and my trash goes in there. The goo pack containers, because I don't want some animal ingesting the foil from the goo packs or something, and any trash, and uh, I'll even pick up stuff sometimes along the course, or if I'm standing on wait time and there's some trash around, I'll throw it in there.
All right, so let's go on to this is more of the fun stuff. We're gonna start with belt. So belt setup. Really, this runs a wide range. I run just an ELS competition belt. I think I could probably grab it here. So I should have had that ready. It's what I run in 3-gun. There's some pluses and minuses to it. I'm able to easily configure stuff, and it's kind of what I'm used to running. So that's the plus. It is a little narrow, depending on how much gear you put in that. It can cut into your hips if you're not used to wearing it, you don't do it right. But that would be like, if you shoot another competition and you have a belt, USPSA 3-gun, that'll work fine. I've looked into some other things, and I may move to that in the future, but I ran 3 or 4 run and gun matches this year with that, and I've run every other run and gun with the belt. So if you have something like that, it's certainly not wrong. And then the other big thing is holster. Some kind of, get this back up, some kind of retention holster. So this is a Blackhawk Omnivore. I don't know that I recommend it or that I don't recommend it. This one retains off of a light, the TLR1. So the thing about it is if you don't press that button, the gun's not coming out. So I would say if you're going to do the sport much, some kind of, I think the Safariland ALS and GLS are probably going to be the most recommended. The retention on those is really, really good, and it's really easy. Most of these retention holsters like this use a thumb. So I think the GLS uses a knuckle or something, but it all naturally, when you grab the gun, you defeat the safety that holds that in. So some kind of retention holster, or if you do just have a Kydex, really crank it down, because we do a lot of things, and having a gun pop out when you don't want to, or a sling getting caught on it, is a quick way to not finish a match. So Tiger, why don't you go on if you got any belt gear or anything like that you want to recommend?
I ran a HSGI, like full-on battle belt one time, had all my mags on it, the whole 9 yards, inner belt, outer belt set up, the whole thing. Didn't really like it, probably because I didn't train with it enough for it to be actually comfortable and me to figure out my setup, and that was all on me. And at this point, I stick a couple of mags on just my everyday belt. I wear a Magpul Tejas gun belt as my everyday carry belt. So that's what I wear at matches. And as far as holsters go, I'm the guy that just runs the plain old Kydex. No active retention. I actually recommend active retention. I run these because I'm confident with them, and I've trained with them enough, and I've done enough stupid crap with them that I'm confident in them. But I'm also already heavily invested in them. I've got hundreds of dollars of these holsters, so I didn't want to go and spend another $400 on Safariland holsters and then have, totes full of holsters just laying around. But like Ryan said, if you do go this route, they all have adjustable retention if they're made well. If they aren't made well, you shouldn't be using them anyways. Crank down on that adjustable retention. I have it to the point where it's almost hard to get the gun out myself. I'm not winning any speed records on stages there again. So that extra 1/10 of a second that it's going to take me, or not even a 1/10, 500ths of a second that it's going to take me to pull out a gun from a really tight holster is worth the safety to me. And I've dropped a gun out of one of these. It was a Maxim 9 on an experimental holster design. Wasn't a very good thing. DQ'd the match. Felt like crap because I'd driven, 6 hours and all that just to DQ. But so, like I said, I do recommend the active retention holsters. And if you are comfortable with a battle belt, it's a really good setup. I know a lot of the top guys wear them. If you're not, then any good gun belt that will secure your holster to your body and not sag and get in the way and all of that will work.
Mark, you want to go next?
Yep. So I wear a USPSA 3-gun type belt, double belt. So Velcro inner belt and then hard nylon, plastic, whatever these are, outer belt. I run Safariland holsters, love them, with the ALS. And then for pouches, these are my USPSA pouches, or at least my old USPSA pouches. They're like CompTac, and this is, I think, a Blade Tech 3-gun or AR-15 mag pouch. And like Tiger was saying, for pistols, he cranks those down. Mag pouches, I crank these down like crazy for run and gun. Like USPSA and 3-gun, I run them super loose. But I think I've found at least 2 mags out on the course that other people have lost. And usually I don't bring enough extra ammo to be leaving mags anywhere on the course. And so I don't want to lose it. And like Tiger said, your speed on your draw, that helps. But in run and gun, your speed on a reload, having that quick mag there, that's not going to be the end of the world for you there. If you spend an extra half second on your reload, it's not going to make or break your match, at least not at my level. But I've had good luck with these, and that's what I'm going to continue to use for a while, I think. So.
All right, Mike, do you want to talk about your kit?
Yeah, so I don't know if I'll get the camera to focus again. I'll do what I can for you folks. Okay, so I started running gun like a lot of people with just a standard Kydex pancake holster. This one from OTG Hex was set up with a weapon light, and I was fortunate that I had good enough retention that I never lost a loaded gun. But I saw why retention was necessary pretty quick, especially with doing 3-gun. So here is a Blackhawk Omnivore. And this is not my favorite, but it's a good way to get into the retention setup. The reason I don't like it is it's a very open holster. So this has been drilling out on the bottom to allow a suppressor to come through. But it still is a relatively open bottom design. And then you got a lot of open area on the top, which is nice because it'll clear a lot of red dots, a lot of pistols. But the downside is in a running gun is you have the opportunity to get a lot of debris in the holster on your gun, possibly jam up the mechanism. So what I ended up settling with is on my battle belt, you can see I've got a Safariland ALS holster. This is the red dot model. And so you can see it covers the red dot, gives it a fair amount of protection against mud and debris. While it does have a slightly more open bottom, I've not had issues with mud getting up. There's a little plug in the bottom to keep stuff from going up in the bore. And this has worked really well. So far, this is probably my favorite holster that I've used for any of my competitive shooting sports. And then I've got the little nub mod design on the side that increases the size of the ALS button a little bit. Gives me a little bit bigger point to hit when on the clock. So the nice thing with going with a holster like this from Safariland is then you can take I believe it's the QLS mounts, or Ryan can probably correct me because he's more familiar with the different mounting options. And then you can move them onto different hangers. So I ran with a full-on battle belt like you see here for years. And while running with plates and things like that, I think it's an excellent idea. Optimal setup with tacos, so I can run AK, SR25, Stenag mags, and whatever pistol I'm shooting. But the downside is when I was running with a ruck, is the ruck was hitting this, shoving down on that battle belt. And since this is just the almost like neoprene inner, it's nice and comfortable, but there's no inner belt, and it'll actually work your pants down over time. So now I've switched over to where I'm using a 1.75-inch rigger's belt when I'm running in a weight class, pairing it with a hanger to get my holster down so I can get my hip pads closed on my rucksack. And then I'll run one of those tacos. And so I'm not running as much weight, but it still gives me an emergency reload on the belt and a good draw for my pistol. And then if I'm going and doing something that's not a weight class with a large ruck, I'll switch right back to my battle belt and be really happy. So both are good. I recommend, if you get an opportunity, play with them both. There's obviously different degrees of quality and how the battle belts are made. This one uses a 1.75-inch rigger's belt, is the inner belt on the inside of a sleeve. Then you can run it through these sections, so your holster's actually on the stiff inner belt, but then you can attach your pouches and everything to the outer, and that works really well. I know that they're on a couple generations past this now, and they're lighter, a little bit more streamlined, but this has been a really good setup for me. Sorry about the camera being blurry, folks.
All right. Did someone else have something to add to that?
Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about, we all talked about Safariland and how awesome they are, and they're actually relatively cheap for the quality that you get. But if you have a Condor holster or whatever that you bought when you bought your first Glock 19 because it was $20 at Walmart or wherever you got it, don't go out and spend $300 on a battle belt set up. Matt Stennett talks about it. He bought Condor stuff for his first running gun 7-8 years ago, whenever it was, 10 years ago, and he still runs some of the same mag pouches and some of the same gear and all of that. And nobody's going to recommend Condor as like a high quality duty gear company, right? But if you don't know if you're going to like the sport, don't go spend a bunch of money. Use what you got, and you might be surprised. Like I said, I use that HSGI belt, and not a lot of people run those anymore. But it's certainly high enough quality at a pretty good price. So, we're going to talk about a lot of this high-end gear as we go on. And just to reiterate, none of this is absolutely necessary. Like, run with what you can and figure out what you like and go from there. And that's especially as we get into our next topic, which I think is chest rigs, right, Ryan?
Yep. So, yeah, I
Ryan,
agree. Yeah, Mark.
Before you moved on, I was just going to add, so all my pouches are on tech locks. These are adjustable from essentially no inches all the way up to 2 inches. So you could wear your dress belt with these if you wanted a 1-inch leather belt from Walmart. And then later, if you like it, then you can start looking at battle belts or competition belts. But just a tech lock like this, simple for putting things on, taking off as you adjust and grow, adding more stuff or taking away stuff. That's a simple way to get into it without getting too crazy into it. So go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, I was just going to add a couple more things. We didn't mention it. Some people do run medical on their belt, tourniquets, maybe a small med kit. It's definitely not a bad idea. I think one thing to keep in mind when planning a loadout, and this is with all your gear in general, is that, we could be climbing through tunnels. We could be climbing over ladders, under things, barbed wire, whatever, fences. So bulk is not your friend. So if you get a giant, not that like a medical kit is a really good thing to have, tourniquet's a really good thing to have. Just keep in mind where you keep things and how you do it. If you get a bunch of rifle mags on your belt and pistol mags and a big huge holster, and then you get all this stuff, you may find yourself getting caught up on stuff. While we were talking about retention holsters, I was going to share. So this is another option. You'll see a lot of these in 3-gun. This is like a hooded holster. When you do your draw, your thumb hits that, knocks it forward. These are pretty out there and about. The only downside that I think this has compared to an ALS or something is that when if you reholster hot or something, you have to flip this hood back up manually, as the ALS and omnivores and stuff automatically do that, which I think is nice. This is, and I'm not sponsored by him, this is a Weber Tactical though. I bought this 5 or 6 years ago and the thing is still solid. So he does make good ones if you're looking for competition type holsters. Besides, maybe Safariland doesn't have it. He might have what you need. And then this is what Mike was talking about. This is a QLS. It's their bigger fork system, and you just slide this in, and it clips in and keeps your. You can pop it out. I've got 4 or 5 or 3 or 4 holsters with all this that I can swap depending on what gun I'm running. The last thing, which I'm sure will get the internet people fired up, is when we're talking retention holsters. I would highly, highly recommend avoiding the Serpa holsters or any of the like. And if you don't know, the retention is taken off with your trigger finger. So some people have them and train with them and use them and have no problems. That's great. You do kind of have to train around to be very careful that your trigger finger does not get inside the trigger guard on your draw. There's tons of people that have shot themselves, agencies that have used them that have moved away. So not to get the trolls riled up, but I think for run and gun, that's probably not a great option. I think it's a cheap option, but the Omnivore is not much more and a much better design. So that's all I'll say about that. Yeah, next is chest rigs. Some of this depends on what division you're in. How much you're getting on your chest compared to your belt. There are some guys that are really fast that love to run everything on their belt. I'm not real fast, and I'm not one of those. I usually may have more pouches, but I only keep like a single pistol mag and a single rifle on my belt. And in the last year, I have started running something like this. This is RDR gear. Spiritus makes these. Haley Strategic makes them. It's a micro chest rig is what it's called. So this one itself has, I got the inserts, they're little Velcro inserts, so you can kind of adjust. I can hold 3 5.56 mags, and then I've got pistol inserts in the 2 separate pockets that I can hold another 4 pistol mags. This you can also break it up. I could pull those out and have like a flap for a pocket. It's really handy. It's the handy thing about it is, so this is the harness that I can wear just as a chest rig. Or, I'm going to have to get down on the ground for this. If I'm running like at Legion this year where I ran my plates, this is Faro Concept Slickster. This thing actually, these buckles clip in there, and this just goes down there, and now I have a chest rig, like a fairly thin chest rig that has everything. So keeps things, it's a little more affordable, and it's none of that's super cheap. It's good gear, but it's very what's the word I'm looking for here? Adaptable to what situation I have going. So that's like for Legion, that's what I ran. And then and other people may mention, I'm actually borrowing this from Mike Ford. I need to return this to him. It's called a dangler pouch. So I can run this on that chest rig by itself, or with the chest rig and the plate carrier. So that modular, that was the word I was looking for earlier. That's a very modular setup. Depending on the match, depending on what I'm doing, I can scale up or scale down. But as I was talking about earlier, that bulk, if you get some of these chest rigs people have, and they got mags all over their chest, and they got mags in their cummerbund, and they got, you could fit a ton of rifle and pistol mags all on your chest, and next thing you know, you're stuck inside of a tunnel because you got, you added 5 inches on the front and back. So as far as chest rigs, that's what I've been running. I've been really happy with it. I think a lot of people run it, but Tiger, do you run a chest rig?
Yeah, Yeah, so way back at the very first one that I ever did, I met a guy who helped design this chest rig right here. This is a Gadsden Dynamics Wasp rig. Gadsden, again, does a lot for the sport, so you can check them out. A lot of guys don't like these because they're the maternity style pouches. I ran this one through a crap ton of events. It's got one rifle mag holder, two pistol mag holders, admin pouch. I usually stick a couple of, well, actually, there's a set of ear pro in there now. Get a couple extra either pistol mags or like short stack rifle mags if I'm going to run a 10 rounder of precision ammo or anything like that. And then I've got attached to the molly over here on the right just a small knife because it comes in handy a lot more than people think. It's really lightweight, pretty straightforward, slides on real easy. And then, like I said, I run some stuff on my belt. Just this past year, I picked up this. I haven't found my pouches and stuff for it yet. This is a Cry Precision or JP Cry 2.0. Got a good deal on it with the armor plating inside. So now if I ever want to run plates classes or anything like that, it's pretty similar to your Slickster, pretty minimalist as far as the base design. And then I can attach stuff to the front as I need, or like Haley Strategic has the flat pack water carrier to the back, or Camelbacks, hook right up to them, stuff like that. But Mike's going to be our chest rig expert here, and I think Mark runs his own rig. So that's kind of all I've got for chest rigs.
Yeah, Mark, do you wanna share what you do?
Yeah, I don't have it with me. I didn't grab it beforehand, but I have a Gadsden as well. Mine's really simple. It's just two rifle mags and a pistol mag, and then two chunks of molly webbing. So I can add another rifle mag, or I can add a pistol mag. But just one thing I wanted to mention was I don't think their big benefit is carrying mags for like, oh, I need an extra mag, I'm going to reload off my chest rig. The thing that I think they're handy for is doing administrative tasks while you're walking or running between stages. If you reload off your chest rig, you're probably doing something wrong. You're going to be a lot faster reloading off your belt. But I've also run Haley rigs as well that have the pockets that you guys are talking about. Being able to top off mags and then, or pop out mags, go back and forth, move your ammo around, stuff things like rags or hang your glasses while you're getting stuff out. Having a place to do work is kind of the big benefit to chest rigs to me. So I keep them fairly slick as far as carrying gear goes. And I'll throw that in the pack. Like if I need more mags, they can go in the pack. But just having a workspace to do stuff, I think, is handy. I think that's the big benefit of chest rigs to me. So that's what I use it for. So it's pretty minimal. Again, just two rifle mags and a pistol mag. But just a place to do stuff, to take it out of your hands while you're kind of working is the handy thing that I think maybe people don't realize until they have one. So that's kind of what I want to add to that. But that's all I got.
Yeah, and when I said I have like a rifle and a pistol mag on my belt, that's what I'm reloading off of, as Mark was suggesting. I'm not trying to, if I can help it, I'm not reloading off my chest. I'm reloading off the belt. And in between stages, I'm doing what Mark said. Those mags that are now shot up, some, half empty, are going on my chest, and then the fresh mags for the next stage or wherever I'm going are on my belt. So and Mike knows a lot more about this, so we'll let him go into some of what he does.
All right, sorry folks, I was having to go gather gear and stuff, so that's why the camera's on off, and you guys got to see my toes. So back in the very beginning, a lot of us started out running chest rigs like this. This is one of the first gen Haley Strategics, and it's a really good piece of kit. These were made by Extreme Gear Labs back in the day. And the really nice things is they were somewhat modular for their day. You could do a little bit of replacing on the back, a pouch or something. but you really were stuck with, okay, I'm going to order one for an AK mag or a SR25 or a Stenag, and you're stuck with it. So while these are really good for guys who, hey, they got one rifle, magazine type they're going to run, and they're going to stick with it, a lot of us have evolved past these. And it was nice because you had lots of like little admin pouches for stuff, but we don't use a lot of this running gun. And if you have the space, you're tempted to fill it with non-essential junk. And it adds up, ounces equal pound. So what I kind of got from running this was to remove the stuff off the front. I need something that was a little bit thinner, a little bit slicker, didn't have as much bungee hanging off. I could never get enough pistol magazines on this, and that was a problem too, because you had the radio pouch, but that never really retained pistol mags well. So I did like the dangler. I like the design on this one because of how far it opens. But at the same time, you do have a tendency to lose stuff if you're not paying attention. That's why I've kind of moved away from it. The one thing that they really, really did right on this was the H harness. And so you'll see a lot of us run an H harness, and it's a slightly thinner profile, and it seems to keep the straps from wanting to ride up as high on your neck and pinch you. And it works really well underneath that pack. So my favorite's the H harness. I think Ryan's planning to move over to one as well at a later date. So the next
soon as I can find one, an M81.
So the next generation for me was I moved to the Spiritus, and you don't have to do this particular brand, and you don't have to spend this much money. There's a lot of very similar ones at a better price point. But the nice thing you get with not holsters, but chest rigs like this, is it's a thinner profile. And you can add wings if you want to add a radio for cool guy points or extra magazines for a real heavy round count match like Legion. But you can run it down in this real thin profile. And so, like, I've got this one set up with 3 Stenag mags, but I can swap and put an insert in there that'll let me run 308 or 7.62 by 39. So instead of having to buy multiple chest rigs for multiple guns, because a lot of us are gun guys and have multiple rifles, and we want to take these events, I can run one chest rig and just spend like $20 on a couple inserts and run them all. So you can also Velcro and flaps that'll let you add a little bit of retention to your pistol mags. And even with all this bungee and everything, I lost magazines, and I'm yet to lose a magazine out of this just from good retention. The nice thing is these use the elastic pouches, kind of like the one that Tiger runs, but because these are Velcro and not sewn in, eventually when the elastic gives up the ghost, I can replace these for a few bucks. So this is a different dangler pouch I like to use. I keep Ear Pro and eye wipes and stuff in the front. And then a lot of us started out with real big bulky medical pouches. And really all we need is a super basic stop the bleed kit. So I just moved to a tourniquet, and then I keep shears and some wound packing, some quick clot, and pressure dressing. And so I cut down how much medical gear, but I can still handle generally what I would face at a running gun. It's sexy to carry the decompression needles and all that stuff, but only a few people at events are actually trained to use that stuff. So why take it out there in the first place? So this is nice because this system, like the one that Ryan wears, can clip onto a plate carrier. And that's a real advantage too, because a lot of us are doing this on a budget. And so I collected this stuff over a period of a few years. But if you got one plate carrier and one chest rig, you could set this up to run your AR, your AK, your bolt gun, your AR-10, whatever. And then, hey, I want to go play an operator or whatever, or I want to take a class and wear armor. You can snap it right on there. So this is a Spiritus plate carrier. This design is really low profile, so it might not be as durable as some of the others, but it's definitely not bulky at all. I like, personally, instead of doing the Velcro overflaps, I like the tube system. I feel like I can get in and out of it without having to undo a bunch of Velcro. And I've actually found a couple times where getting out of plates on the clock was handy. I've actually pulled my plates off on a long range rifle stage and used them as a rest and put my rifle over the top of them. If the ROs say you can do it and there's an advantage, look for it. So instead of having to undo Velcro and take it off, I was in and out of the plates in seconds. So also, one thing is we're out there running in hot temperatures, so look for one that you can set up with some sort of hydration bladder on the back. I'm playing with this system. It's a little bit bulkier than I just had this zip tied straight on, but it seems to carry a little bit better. I know Ryan had to do something to make an addition for him for Legion. The plate carrier that I had previously was the first Spear Strand Hog. And in terms of comfort, this thing is absolutely incredible. It's got great padding on the shoulders and the back, good ventilation. It's a really, really comfortable rig. And then where I have your side plates, I put the Kiwi magazine pouches in there. This was a really great setup for Legion. I managed to land on the podium a few times wearing this. And just kind of a testament to the comfort is I bought these and I was told that they were large plate bags, and they ended up being XL. So they're too big for me, and eventually I'm going to have to find someone to trade or find a way to get the one that actually fits me. But I was still able to get it close enough that I was able to run it for years. So more of a comfort-based design. It's a little bit thicker for long-term wear. I don't have this one set up with the Swift clips on the front because I wouldn't want to go 2 magazines stick on the front of this. It's a little bit too much for crawling and stuff, but there's advantages for both. If you think that you're going to be somewhere that you're going to be in armor all day, then it's probably worth going to a little bit bulkier carrier for comfort. If you're looking for something just for a match or moving fast, the light slick carriers like what Ryan has and like that works great. I think Tigers is very similar to that as well. So here's a very different type of chest rig. I've seen several of these out at Running Guns, and I think Sean Murphy also uses one of these sometimes. So these are Hill People Gear chest rigs, and so these are set up, I think, more with like SAR and hunting and camping in mind. But they make versions that have the MOLLE webbing across the front, and you can put a considerable amount of equipment inside these. So they're very comfortable. You can do a lot with them. They're just not necessarily as optimized for getting magazines out quickly and the shooting portion. I imagine if you're doing maybe some more of like the adventure challenge type matches where it's more based on orienteering and some of those other skills, something like this might do well. And then here's a smaller version, and I wear this a lot for training and running and stuff because it lets me carry a small J frame or like a G43 or something in the magazine and toss my phone in there, and I can run in gym shorts or something. But those are just a different style of chest rig. But I think probably I've seen 4 or 5 people that are pretty hardcore running gunners that use them. So it's another option out there. It just probably wouldn't be my first choice for the type of matches that we're doing in our area. So that's kind of my general breakdown of some of the different chest rigs, the evolution that they've gone through. One of the big things that you want to look for is the Spiritus had the nice sliders to help you manage some of your extra cord. The Haley didn't have those, and so Gorilla Tape came and came to the rescue for strap control. And I do that with my rucks and other packs as well, because when you're running on the course and you're holstering and unholstering and you got rifles hanging on slings and everything else, the last thing you want is extra cordage or strap getting caught, and so you can't get stuff off of you on the clock, or God forbid it leads to some sort of accident. So, yep, brief overview.
Yeah, and I think those small little chest bags like the Hill People gear, I see a lot of people running those when they run backpacks. So it's kind of a little bit lighter way to do that. And I'll say though, even the minimalist rigs, like I can't speak for wearing it day in and day out, but when we did Wolverine earlier this year and we were on the range most of the day, that chest rig was still pretty darn comfortable. I mean, I have triple curve plates, which help. Real quick, you guys, do we want to talk about packs still, or do we want to leave packs for its own topic? Because that seems like it's kind of a big topic. What do you guys think?
We could touch on it, but it's probably
we could
best to go into that when we go into rucking.
Okay, let's save. Okay, let's do that. Let's save rucksacks and packs for another day because I think there's a lot that can go on there, and we're already at like an hour and 15 minutes. And I still wanted to touch on slings real quick. So I'll get that started. I don't have a ton to talk about slings. I use the Faro Concept Slickster. There's a lot of slings with a similar design. I think the kind of key here is you've got some kind of little loop that you can loosen and tighten really, really quickly. That's important. I do use QDs. I don't just because that's what my gun is most easiest set up with. I don't think that really matters. The only other things I'll add about that is I do run my QD a little bit further forward on the handguard, and then if you have the ability, the buttstock QD, I go on the opposite side, if that makes sense. So if you got the gun shouldered, it's actually on the ejection port side. That way, when you got it on there, it's a little more comfortable that way. Something to experiment with. But I've run the Magpool's MSR1 for a long time before I got that. I think the Slickster is a little bit better design, but the Magpool worked fine. There's no great magic and sling. Just kind of find one you like. A little bit of padding doesn't hurt, but I don't think you want it too thick. So, Tiger, you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I actually run, if I'm not running a pack, I run a biathlon sling. I bought it off of a local company here, Bird's Eye Tactical Solutions. If you guys are interested in biathlon slings, but don't necessarily want to spend the money on like a tab gear, because those can run up to $150 to $200 sometimes. Highly recommend you check out Bird's Eye Tactical Solutions. They're awesome. I ran it in a lot of things, and they're actually a little bit different in that their slings are not sewn into the backpack form. So like the one race I did, I took the biathlon clips off, took the whole second strap off of it and just ran it as a 2-point. And it worked great. But yeah, like Ryan said, it's basically any 2-point. I know Vickers are real popular. Like I said, tab biathlon slings are real popular. Blue Force gear, like Magpul, Faro Concept Slicksters, like any of them, pick one, try it out. If you don't like it, throw it on a trade group, get rid of it, get you something different. I'm a little bit different than Ryan. I actually run my QDs close to the receiver on both sides. I like how much movement that allows me. Like basically I'm pivoting off of those QD points a little bit. The only negative thing I'm going to say about any sling design is if you're planning on doing a running gun in a 1-point sling, you are wrong, and just don't. It's going to be you're going to have a real bad day. You're going to beat the crap out of your legs.
You're nuts.
3 points. Yeah, you're nuts. Like you're just gonna have a bad day with 1 point. 3 points you can get away with. 2 points you can get away with. Biathlons you can use. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. 1-point slings are built for people who clear houses and only clear houses, and then throw their rifles in trucks and drive to the next house to clear that house. So don't use a 1 point. But as far as individual brands, like I said, just find, come to an event and try out everybody's sling. Ask. People will let you do it. Heck, the one event that I ran my bullpup on, I realized I didn't have a sling. And I tied a piece of paracord to the front of it and to the buttstock of it, and I ran a piece of paracord as a impromptu 2-point sling, and it worked fine. Like, it was uncomfortable as shit because it cut into me the whole run, but it worked fine, right? Like, so again, you don't need to buy a $300 SF rated whatever. Just find what you like and run it.
Yep. Yeah, that for sure. And actually, if you ask, like, I usually bring an extra sling because I'm paranoid about forgetting one myself. So most people, there's a lot of people that probably have an extra one. Did you want to go next, Mike?
Yeah.
I've got a couple things. So first off, I'm going to start with the first sling that I got that was actually worthwhile. I'm going to say again, like Tiger, don't do 1 point. That's not cool. Don't do it. The next thing is the sling material itself is really important to how it'll feel on you, as well as how well the buckles and the sliders work. So this material is pretty slick. So is the Magpul. So sometimes the guys that are running them will, depending on the design, have issues where the slider will actually start moving as it gets tension and stuff on it. I never had an issue with this particular one, but I've seen several guys complain about the Magpuls doing that. This is a pretty interesting sling. This is I think, tactical intervention, and I know they were making some for the Marine Corps for a while. And so this is a modern version of the old leather, where you can throw a loop around your arm, same idea, to stabilize for long-range shooting. And from prone, it actually works really well. The only reason that I've just kind of gone away from it is I don't find myself shooting from prone very often at running gun anymore. We've switched over to a lot more barricade work and off vehicles and things like that. So it's not the advantage that it was the first few years, but that's a good sling. I imagine if you're probably doing more stuff maybe out west. So this is a version of the Vickers sling. This was the Vickers Medic. And so where normally the sling has only one glide for adjusting tension, they put 2 on this one. So you can actually tighten it down on the stock end as well as the end that's attaching to the rail or handguard, and really tighten it down to you. So it was really nice. I liked it. You could get the gun tucked in nice so it wasn't bouncing around on you. The only downside to it was there wasn't a whole lot of padding up around your neck. And if you weren't paying attention, you could put this buckle right where your neck is. But I've still got 2 of them. I think that they're pretty decent, and I'd have no problem pointing someone towards one of the Vickers slings. So, like Ryan, I ended up moving to the Faro concept. I've got a slightly earlier generation than him, but the glide works really well on these for getting it to where you want it. The padding is also really nice on your neck. So I've run close up towards the receiver, and I've also run out towards the end, and I've figured out just over the years I like mine out towards the muzzle. I just feel like I don't have something hooking into my hand as much, and I can put my hand where I want, and I can push up. I've not had any issues with VTAC boards with that either, but I imagine if you had a really fat rail and you throw a really big QD on it, that might be something to think about. And then let's see. So on the back end, you see that's on the left side. I'm a right-handed shooter, and then on this side, it's clipped onto the right side of the stock. And the reason is, often if you clip this onto this side, when you go to shoulder the rifle, it just ends up really strange how the sling will get caught in the crook of your arm. It's kind of uncomfortable, and then by doing this, when the sling is on around your neck, it kind of goes up behind the stock and over your shoulder, and it doesn't get between your shoulder pocket and the stock or brace or whatever you're running. The nice thing too is with these slings with the quick adjust is if you set them upright, you can actually bump this shoulder from the right to the left. So what you'll end up doing is if you're going to engage a close range target and they want you to shoot from the weak side, is without taking the rifle off or undoing my sling, I can go and push the rifle to my left shoulder with the sling still on and still have room to do it, engage that close range target, and then just go right back. And I don't have to swim out of my sling to do it. So that's another advantage of having it over on the right side versus the left side. If it's on the left side of the stock and you try that technique, you're probably going to feel like you're strangling yourself. So, and at some point, Ryan and I should do a video on that technique and put it under our tech tips. But
yeah, I agree. We should do that. And I'm going to add with Mike's with running that out. One thing that I do, and part of the reason I run that sling further out, is you can actually grab onto that sling and your hand guard, and depending on where you slide your hand up while holding onto that, you can almost like the old 3-point slings or whatever with the hand thing, you can help add a little bit of tension to the sling in there, and it helps lock in, like if you got a little more precision offhand shot or something like that. That's kind of a technique you can use to kind of do what they used to do with those that extra little loop up there. So I've used that on at least once or twice and played around with it a lot more too. So
here's one thing that I need to touch on that's really important. Not all QDs are created equal. Both of these are like not super expensive, but they're not cheap ones. And what you'll notice is this one's got the raise button. And while it's nice, it's easier to get on and off. It's a lot easier to accidentally hit and drop your rifle. And, if you're running a good optic and a good mount, you're probably not going to lose your zero. But at the same time, nobody wants their rifle to go flying when they didn't want it to. Look for QDs with recessed buttons. It's not quite as easy to pop and get out of, but you're not going to do it by accident. So recessed good, raised and exposed, not so good. So, and then again, these are subject to manufacturing tolerances. And so when you get a socket and a QD, make sure that you snap it in there and you can tug on it and it does not want to come out because it's being kept in there by these little tiny ball detents. And of course they're radiused, but if you've got one that's maybe undersized for the QD and then an oversized hole channel, you can rip that QD right out. And I've seen that happen with cheaper QDs or cheaper mounting hardware. One thing, slightly moving into the gun side of the gear though, is the better manufacturers, whether it's actually machined into the rail or one that you bolt onto the rail, will actually put limiting travel in. So the QD will not rotate a 360. They'll normally put stop points every 90 degrees. And that's really nice to keep your sling from getting tangled up. So that's just a couple things to watch for when you're doing your sling mounting. And then if you're using the bolt-on mounts, look at the manufacturer torque specs and make sure that your M-lock or your key mod, whatever you're using, is engaged properly. Blue lock tight and go to that torque spec. You don't want that coming undone at a race. So, yep, that's a little tip for that.
And witness mark. Witness mark all the screws. Mark, what do you got to add to this?
Nothing really. I use pretty much the same gear too. The slings that I use are Vikings Tactics or VTAC. And I think they call them the wide, but they're the padded ones. I have 3 of them. I have them all in QDs. The only thing that I do a little different, and it's kind of because of VTAC sling versus the other, is I've actually braided paracord over the release on those because it's a little easier to grab onto than some of the ones that you guys showed. They're big chunks of nylon. They're easy to grab, but I I'm happy with the VTAC, and it's an easy modification, and so I stick with that. But it's the same as you guys, 2 points, QD, same sort of thing.
Good deal. And yeah, this that's a big bulk of what we wanted to go over for people starting. I think to kind of, I'll give everyone a chance to talk here, but to reiterate, don't spend a bunch of money before you have gone out and done this. Talk to people. We all have extra gear we'll bring. Having said that, when you do go to buy this gear, just buy good gear. You can buy the Magpul sling for $20, and it's a good sling, and it'll probably be fine for you. I think the the Slingster is like $45 or $35-$40. So it's a little bit more, but it's kind of a better design. You got a little more padding on it, which can come off and on depending on what you need. It's like a little bit more money and you get better gear. You go to buy a chest rig and you buy like the cheapest chest rig, and maybe it works great and it starts wearing on you, and then you buy another one. Well, you spent $60 on the first one, and like an RDR gear or Spiritus is 110. It's like, well, now that you have to replace that, okay, well now you're at $120 and you just have still a cheap chest rig, but you're just on your second one. I mean, this sport is hard on gear. I would recommend when you do buy gear, do your homework, see what people are using, just like buy a good one. But to come out, I ran my first 2 or 3 running guns borrowing gear or just throwing a bunch of crap in like a JanSport book bag. I had my competition belt and all of my other mags and water and all that stuff went into a pack. We didn't really get into water. You should probably find a way to carry that on you. When we talk about packs, I think that's a little more logical for water. But if you're not running a pack, I've even put the smaller water bottles in the dropper pouch, so the dangler. So yeah, you probably, depending on the race, how far and the heat and all that, I would highly recommend at least bringing some water, if not a hydration pack or something. So that's kind of what I got. Tiger, you want to share some wisdom while we get out of here?
Well, I don't know if it's wisdom, but it's something. Yeah, like you said, don't necessarily go out and buy a bunch of gear before you know what you like. And then when you are buying gear, don't be afraid to talk to one of us. Talk to one of us or talk to a Nick Hansen or a John Hutt, Matt Stennett, Nick Leach, Sean Murphy. Anybody in the sport is going to be willing to share their preferences with you, share their knowledge with you, share their wisdom with you. And in a lot of cases, you call somebody like Mike Ford or me or Ryan or Mark or Sean or whatever, and you say, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. What do I need? What should I go buy? They'll say, hey, I've got 3 chest rigs. Show up. You can try all 3 of them on. We'll see what fits you. You can run my chest rig this match. Or, hey, you're running an AR-15. I've got 47 mag pouches for AR-15s because we're all gear whores. So use my pouches this match. Don't go buy pouches. Just, and some people hate borrowing gear, and I get that. But really, it is the best way. And sometimes, the guy will say, hey, you liked those 5 mag pouches I gave you? Like I said, I've got 47 of them. Buy me a beer at the next match. Just hang on to them. Keep them. Keep them until you don't need them anymore. Then give them to the next guy that needs them. Spread the love, spread the sport. Jimmy Nutt's real good about that. So as far as gear goes, like Ryan said, buy good stuff, but don't discount maybe companies you've never heard of before, because honestly, before a running gun, I'd never heard of RDR gear, and they make great stuff. And I probably would have discounted them had Ryan not tried them. And I've seen it, I've handled it, and I'm like, okay, that's a cool piece of kit, and I'll probably pick one up at some point. So don't be afraid to try new things. But if you see something on Alibaba, probably don't buy that. um, so, like I said, just try stuff out. Don't spend thousands of dollars on gear you're only going to destroy. But at the same time, don't buy gear that's easily destroyed. So that's what I got.
Now I want us to do a wish run and gun where we all just run like the cheapest wish gear we can find and see whose gear actually makes it to the end of the match.
Yes, zombie would be perfect for that.
And all of a sudden,
All
we
right.
start a Patreon.
Yeah, exactly. Mark, what do you got? Words of wisdom to take us out on?
My last words of wisdom would be to make a checklist. It doesn't matter what gear you buy, but make sure you actually get it to the match. So make a list of all the stuff that you need to bring with you. And then the night before the match or 2 days before the match, clean out your living room, lay it all on the floor, make sure everything's there. Imagine you're going to parachute into Normandy and all this gear needs to be there. And then pack it up and set it by the door and make sure it all gets into the truck or car. And then check your list. When you get to the hotel, check your list. That would be my big thing. Whatever gear you buy, perfect. Good gear, bad gear. Doesn't matter if you forget it and you're running a paracord sling or Walmart plastic shoes. So that'd be my last piece of wisdom. Make a list, double check it, go through all your stuff and make sure you get it to the match.
That's great advice. Mike, how about you?
So join the Run and Gun Facebook group. If you are going to a match and you don't have gear, throw up a post. Say, this is my first match. This is what I do have. And see what guys come and can loan you. When you get to that match, ask everyone about what kit they're running, how many running guns that they've done. You'll get a general consensus from the people who have been doing this a lot and the guys that end up walking away with a lot of trophies and stuff. Their kit is very similar. It might be a different color, it might be a different manufacturer, but if you look at the basics of how it's set up and what it does, everyone's stuff is almost identical. So there's a really good indication that something's going on, and you probably won't be disappointed if you look and learn from that, because they probably bought multiple chest rigs, as you saw from my pile of stuff on the floor, to figure out where they wanted to be. Then definitely I'd second, whenever I go to a match or something, I build a checklist of the stuff that's going, and it's everything from my toothpaste and contact solution to the ammo and slings. And a lot of times I'll go ahead and toss in a extra sling and stuff. I've loaned people slings at starting lines with seconds before they run off. So there's a good chance that between Ryan and I, when we show up to a run and gun, we could outfit a whole nother runner. All three of us could be out on the course at the same time, and it would probably work out fine. Heck, I know last year when John Hutt and I managed to get first at Zombie, John ended up running his appendix inside the waistband holster for his pistol because he forgot his competition belt at home. So once you hit a certain skill level, you can do a lot with a lot of minimum gear. So in the end, come out, have fun, learn. Don't go drop in a bunch of coin until you've gone hands-on with some stuff. I know there's guys out there that are probably like me, that I enjoy the research and I'll spend hours and hours looking at things. But that same thing of building that checklist of a pack of what am I going to bring to a match, build that checklist of what do I want to do with this chest rig. Do I want it to be able to run different magazines for different long guns? Do I want to be able to throw it on a plate carrier? And if you build out that checklist, that can help you select the gear that you want in the long term and save money in the long term. So you won't overlook something when you get all excited and maybe do a buzz shopping spree, as I know a lot of people in run and gun do. But yeah, anyone in here, and there's a lot of great people to ask questions, so don't hesitate. Don't spend your hard-earned dollars unless you're making an informed purchase. That's it for me.
All right. Yeah. And I think the one great thing I'll leave everyone with here that Mike mentioned is that really good shooter can do a lot with little. Buying this gear, it's like any sport. You can't buy success. So you can buy gear that gets you a good step towards that success. You know, you don't want your gear handicapping you, but today I could go out and buy every last piece of kit that Mike ran at Legion, and I will not beat Mike at Legion because he's put the time in exercising, he's put the time in shooting, and you know, he's got some edge on me on that. So it doesn't matter what gear. You know, we shoot a lot together in a lot of different sports, and if he beats me or I beat him sometime, it's